Alrighty. Well, welcome everyone to today's discussion on womanhood and Unveiled, Juggling Life's Multifaceted Roles. I'm Jessica Marset, your host for today's conversation. In this episode, we're diving into the intricate tapestry of womanhood, exploring the myriad roles, responsibilities, and challenges that the women in today's world often navigate. Womanhood is often described as a journey filled with triumphs, trials, and everything in between. From nurturing relationships to pursuing careers, from managing households to advocating for change, women today wear many hats, each representing a facet of their multifaceted identities. But within this tapestry lies a deeper narrative, one that transcends societal expectations and traditional norms. It's about empowerment, resilience, and the relentless pursuit of dreams. It's about breaking barriers, shattering stereotypes, and embracing authenticity. In this panel discussion, we'll unravel the complexities of womanhood, delving into the experiences, insights, and stories of our esteemed guests. Today, we'll explore the balancing act of juggling life's roles, the triumphs and tribulations along the way, and the collective journey towards empowerment and equality. So, grab your favorite beverage. I have my water. This is not my favorite, but I just got off my real. Settle in and join us as we embark on a journey to unveil the essence of womanhood. Let's dive deep, listen attentively, and learn from one another as we navigate the beautiful chaos of being a woman. Without further ado, let me introduce our guest panel. Emily Rowan is a mom, wife, soldier, lawyer, and leader. And those are just 5 of the many roles that she holds. With over 18 years of federal service as an officer in the United States Army's Judge Advocate General's Corps, which is a legal field, she currently serves as the Deputy Staff Judge Advocate in Hawaii for the 8th Theater Sustainment Command or chapter. So, in case you don't know, Deputy Staff Judge Advocate is basically like the second head person in charge of a legal office. So, she's a big deal.
Snaps for that. Snaps for that.
She also serves on the board of directors for the JAG Corps' Hispanic Mentorship Group, and she's the lead for their recruiting line of effort. She's also a member of the Hispanic National Bar Association, a former commissioner on the HNBA Latina Commission, and a 2019 Hispanic National Bar Association Top Lawyer Under 40 awardee. So that's super incredible, Emily. She's been married over 12 years, and she has 2 young and highly energetic boys.
Oh, yes.
I don't think any young boys are not energetic. Well, no, I think they're a little lethargic these days. I take that back. Just don't move it. Just sit there. Our other guest, April Young, is a multifaceted woman navigating the intricate dance of modern femininity. As a devoted wife to her loving and supportive husband. Okay, sounds like that. Okay, so we have the boy mom here, and then we have the girl mom.
Yeah.
April's the mother of 3 vibrant girls.
Oh,
She finds solace and fulfillment in the sanctuary of home. I know that's right. As I am growing older, I am really loving just being in the house more and more. However, April has also embarked on a journey of self-discovery, recognizing the significance of nurturing her individual identity beyond family roles. I like that. Balancing a dynamic career alongside her personal aspirations, she embodies resilience, determination in the face of life's demands. April's passion for empowering women shines through her role as a coach and confidant, offering guidance and support through life's myriad challenges. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you. Hey, wait a minute, Emily. Let me go crawl under the desk somewhere and go find something. I need to add to this resume.
no,
Emily,
yes.
yes.
You got 3 girls.
I told her that just earlier. I'm like, okay, first of all, being a mom is one thing. Having a job is another thing. Being a spouse is another thing. And then she has 3 daughters. I have 1, and I'm at max capacity.
And you look like you're 21.
You look good.
Yeah.
Listen now. Don't hate me. You speaking my language, Emily. You speaking my language.
No, that's right. That's exactly what we need as women need to do more often. Is help each other.
Yes, absolutely.
Fill each other's cup because we're definitely going to be talking about it today. So let's start with this first question. And I'll let Emily go first. How do you personally define womanhood in today's society? Or how do you personally see it?
I, I loved when you started with beautiful chaos.
Mm.
And I actually wrote it down. So I'm kind of taking notes as we're going too, because
Go
there's
ahead.
just so much to share. How do I define womanhood? I think it's for me, and hopefully for a lot of women out there, it's embracing yourself, embracing your body, your mind, your soul. Um, when I think about womanhood in my early years and my teenage years, I didn't know what that meant. I thought it was putting on high heels. I thought it was trying to look cute, getting, the nice skin and the hair looking right. Um, but I think as I've grown into womanhood, for me, it's embracing all of those things, and especially after children and after all the things that we go through, it's okay to have a little cellulite. We all got, like that's
Oh,
how
child.
God
Ooh.
intended for me to be. And I look to so many women out there that embrace all of that, right?
Mhm.
And sometimes I hear like embracing our imperfections, but they're not imperfections. We are made perfectly the way we were intended to be. And so for me, it's just intentionally accepting that and just seeing every aspect of that, from the mental to the emotional to the physical.
I love that. Amen to cellulite.
Yes.
That's right.
Hello. Emily, I love everything that you said. I totally agree. Um and Jessica, I don't know if you were gonna, so for me, when I think about womanhood, I would agree with everything that Emily is saying, right? And I think the same. I think, when you get older, you have perspective. The older you get, the wiser you are. And having three young girls. So my oldest is 14, she'll be 15 in October. Ooh, November. She'll kill me. I'm so sorry, Isabella. She'll be 15 in November. My anniversary is in October, but she'll be 15 in November. And so it's interesting when you have children, right? They give you a different perspective. And, you hear these sayings, and even when you probably think and reflect back on your own childhood, right? You think like, your parents try to live through you, right? They want you to not make the same mistakes. They want you to do better and be better. And although I'm not trying to live through my daughters, I'm trying to help them to navigate. I'm like, listen, I'm telling you, just listen to me. I promise. I know what I'm talking about, right? And, being a woman, it is like, I love all those things: dressing up, makeup, high heels, looking the part. But like you said, it's so much deeper than that. And helping the younger generation to really, I mean, shoot, even us, right? To embrace that, like, you are not defined by what you're wearing, what your hair looks like. Those things don't define you. It's your character, right? Even physically, our society does not honor women growing old. When a man grows older, he's more distinguished. When he
Right.
He's
has
a,
gray
he's a
hair, and
daddy.
he's a zaddy. He's got the lines in his forehead. Meanwhile, we are like, we want to stop time. We're not given the green light, the pass to grow older and to become more distinguished and more in tune with yourself, and to allow our bodies to change, because they change. It is changing. It has changed, right? So we don't get that opportunity. So I think womanhood today is really, my hope is that we start to redefine what womanhood is, right?
Yeah.
And that it's not just about your husband, it's not just about your children. We have a tendency to, especially when you're a mom, your kids, it's all about your kids, right? But it's like you said, Emily, it's who you are. Who am I? What is important to me? What is it that's driving me? Right? And I think womanhood is an individual, it's defined by each individual, right? How do you see womanhood versus, like, there's this blanket definition of this is what womanhood is.
Mhm.
No, I completely agree. When I was growing up, I saw the women in my life. If I would define womanhood back then by what I saw there, they cooked. They were actually really good at it.
Yes.
They took care of the house.
Mm-hmm.
They
Yeah.
took care of the children. They took care of their significant others.
Yeah.
And most of them went to church.
Mm-hmm.
Like when they left out of the house, though, they were head to toe glamour, no matter what. Like there was no too much societal expectations on like beauty. They were just
Yep.
beautiful,
Mm-hmm.
because they carried themselves in that way. They were strong,
Mm-hmm.
but they still were, they kind of put their strength on the back burner. Their strength was like inside of the house. They didn't really show that too much externally.
Yeah.
And so that's what I saw. And then as I'm, in my late 30s, nearly 40, and I'm navigating womanhood now, I'm like, whoa, it's that plus a whole
Yes.
lot more.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have to nurture every relationship in my life.
Yeah.
I have, my own career that I'm trying to also nurture. We're just gonna keep that word in there. Friendships. I have to be strong. I have to worry about my body. Like I have to worry about my mental health. Like it's just so much. Womanhood is we've said it earlier, multifaceted, but it is we also said it this way. It's beautiful chaos.
Yeah.
It is.
I
It's
saw
a
it as
doozy.
multifaceted, right, in the past when I was younger, and now I see it as beautiful chaos. How about that?
Yes. Yeah. It's a doozy for sure.
It is. So let's talk about this. So we've already defined some of you all's roles whenever we started. Again, everyone is a career woman between the three of us. We're all spouses. We're all mothers.
Mhm.
We just have so much going on. How do you, we can start with April. How do you balance all those roles?
You don't. You don't.
Thank you for saying that.
I think, it's really interesting because there's so many like self-help books and influencers. I love a good influencer, don't get me wrong, right? So I do. But those people and resources and things are out there, and I feel like we've been fed this message over and over, like you just got to find the balance, you got to find the balance, but there is no balance, right? You can try, but you have seasons, right? So there have been certain seasons in my life where I've been totally out of whack, and then there are other seasons in my life where I've never fully balanced. I don't think I could ever say that, right? But where I'm hanging on just a little, like it's just a little teeter a little bit, right? I'll say when I was a young mom, so I'm 42. When I had my first child, I was in my late 20s, and I was newly married. I, was just trying to figure out everything. And I would say in the very beginning, I was truly like totally out of whack. I think, for me growing up, I grew up in a single parent household. So I saw my mother do everything. So in my mind, I thought, well, that's what I'm supposed to do, everything. And then I had my husband, who is amazing. And he grew up in a two-parent household. And he saw both of his parents working and helping and supporting. That was his life. So, but when we had kids, I thought, it's me. It's on me. And it's a girl. Like, it's on me. It's on me. And my mother-in-law told me, like, you better let that man take care of that child. You better let that man I got a good mother-in-law, you have to let him play a role too. And I think it took me, no judgment, but it took me probably about 7 years, I think, to really embrace that. Like, you know what? I don't have to do it all. And I think when you start to realize I don't have to do it all, I don't have to be all the things, then you start to move into a space where you do start to become a little more balanced. It's never fully balanced, right? Because there'll always be demands. But I think you enter into a totally different atmosphere when you start to say, you know what? I don't have to do that. I know I can do it. I know that I'm good at it, but I don't have to do that. And I'm not going to do that right now because I have other things that are competing for my attention, or other things that take priority.
I love it. And I often like to say it's not a balance. I'm with you. You just find harmony. You just find a
Harmony.
way to make
Yes.
it work.
Yeah, right.
What it
Finding
is.
a way to make it work. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
No balance. It's you can't be balanced, because if you're balanced, that means you have 50% you're giving on this side and 50% you're
Exactly.
giving on that side. And it's just impossible to do that, because if you're only giving 50% of something, then you're clearly failing at it anyways.
Exactly.
So it's a harmony.
It's a
And that's how
harmony.
I
I
define
like
it.
it. I'm
Yeah.
stealing that.
Yeah. Have it.
Yeah.
What about you, Emily? How do you balance it all or
Yeah.
find harmony in it?
Yeah, no, you took the words right out of my mouth, Jessica. And for years we hear this whole concept of work-life balance, but I'm with you. It's like it implies that there's some kind of uh, equal weighing and equality of it all. But I loved how you described it in terms of, but if you're only giving 50% to it all anyway, then we're not really giving it our all. And um, I don't know that there ever really is a true balance. I love harmony because it also brings in the idea that you being comfortable with what you're prioritizing at that
Hmm.
space and in that time and in those circumstances. Some days I feel like I am crushing it as mom,
Yes.
but work wise, it ain't happening. And then other days it completely flips, or
Hmm.
hey, today I killed it as a daughter or
Hmm.
a wife. But then the other things I don't have as much or I haven't given as much in terms of prioritizing it for that day or that week or
Yep.
month or whatever that timeline is. And so, no, I'm complete agreement with you ladies that I don't know that you ever really truly find balance. It's just finding that comfort level for that time frame on what's important and what has to be
Hmm.
done right now. Because if I don't, then I'm no longer nurturing that, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a profession, whether it's a hobby, whatever it is. If I'm not taking care of it, then it's just going to start fading out. And some things it's okay when they fade out, like let it go. But then other things it's, oh no, I got to wake up and I have to have that moment of, all right, let me reprioritize where I'm at. So yeah, harmony. I'm all for the harmony.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
And just go
I'm
ahead,
sorry.
April.
I was just going to say, I think in society we have a tendency to think that women can do all the things. Like it really irritates me, right? Because at one point it was like we wore it as a badge of honor, like, yes, or like you talk about all the things you have going on. I'm doing this, and this, or I have, oh no, my calendar is full. And it's just like, well, wait a minute now. Why, why are we carrying this as a badge of honor? Who put this on
Right.
us? Who
Yeah.
did that? And then we embrace it. And I'm guilty of it. I still slide back into that, that mentality. It's really difficult to break because, again, my mother did do all the things. She had to do all the things. She was amazing. But it's just like this pressure in society. It's like, well, women are amazing and they can do all these things and superwoman and blah, blah, blah. Whenever my husband says superwoman, I'm like, don't call me that. Take it back.
Hey, Karen White said it. I'm not your
I'm
superwoman.
not your
That's
superwoman.
right.
I am not. I'm cooking dinner. I'm cooking
Right.
breakfast.
It's
No,
crazy.
because I'm also a working woman. You know,
Exactly.
years ago, women were home and they could focus solely on the home and their children and their husband. But that is not the case anymore. We are working women, and
Yeah.
society still expects us to do all of these other things. It's just totally unrealistic,
Yeah.
and we take that on.
Yeah. And it definitely segues into basically what I was going to talk about, is just the stereotypes and
Mm,
the expectations of society that we endure. And I mean, uh, let's talk about it. Like a man is expected to provide, albeit, let's just say maybe he goes to work. But when he comes home, the woman is expected to provide for him and nurture.
mhm, mhm,
But what if the woman goes to work? When she comes home, who nurtures her? Who
mhm.
provides for her? But society's expectation is we do that plus all the other things.
Right.
And it's not feasible. We cannot give 100% to every single thing that we're doing. And like Emily said before, something is going to suffer, right? You're going to lack somewhere.
Yeah.
And it may be okay to lack Here, this may be insignificant. It might not matter. But in that household, in those relationships with your spouse, with your children, you can't lack. At your job, guess what? You can't lack.
Exactly.
But how are we handling that? So that is another thing. It's how do you all feel about just those expectations that are put on us? And I'll add to that so that you can answer this as well. People these days, we say it's kind of like a feminist theory that we want to be independent women. And I think people, they get it all wrong by what we mean by that. We want to have independence. We want to have access to opportunity. We want to have a voice. But that doesn't mean we want to completely just be out here doing it all or doing it all on our own. So what do you all think about that? Emily?
Yeah. And I think quite a few things there, right? So how do we do it? So I think about how I grew up. So I come from a Puerto Rican family. I am Latina, and culturally, there is this absolute expectation, very similar to what you described, Jessica, where the woman takes care of everything. And over generations, that has changed. But most of my family, especially the women in my family, the expectation is like, hey, if we come to visit, you're serving a plate for my husband or Uncle so-and-so or Grandpa so-and-so. And you're cleaning up and, you're, like April mentioned, you're doing all these things. But at a certain point, and, I give all the credit to my sister for this, because, it's one of those like, no, I have to fold the towels. I have to do this. I got to do all the laundry. And she said, why? Why?
Yes.
You want to fold the towels because you want it done a certain way. And I fold them, in a particular order.
I fold my towels in my house. She's right.
Yeah. And so, and at that moment, I was like, you know what? Like, Stacey, you're right. Like, why do I care how the towels are folded when at the end of the day, when we take them out of that closet, they're gonna go all over the place, right? And the kids, they end up on the floor anyhow, right? So we're picking them up. And so I think very similar to what April was highlighting and what we've all talked about so far is what are the things that we can let go, irrespective of societal expectations. I can honestly say that I'm very blessed with my husband. He does not have a lot of those traditional viewpoints and values. And, we try to flip flop. There's some weeks where, hey, I need you to handle all the pickups in the afternoons and the soccer and the this and the that, because I have all this going on at work. But trying to see that and to balance that as best as we can as a couple. For us, that's how it has worked. And then just not letting ourselves get trapped into the societal piece. And I'll tell you, a lot of my family, and you can hear it. And sometimes it's not even a matter of hearing. They will outright tell you, like, ooh, you're not taking care of your husband. It's like, you're not in my house. What do you mean I'm not taking care of my husband? And so it's just kind of, it's like me just tuning out some of the noise in the background that tries to tell me what that expectation should be.
Do what works for you.
That's
Do
right.
what works
Yeah.
for you.
And
Absolutely.
us setting our own expectations as a couple, as a family, and then going from there. Because if not, I think it can drive you crazy. And it did for the first few years too. But I had to learn to just tune it out and let it go.
And before I let April answer that, because I definitely want to hear her perspective on this as well. I had this talk with my friends several times. We want to do it all because we can and we're good at it, and we want it done our way because our way is the right way. But I recently just got into this frame of mind that if it can be outsourced and you can afford to outsource it. If you have to pay someone to free up your time to come and fold those towels, or even to prep your meals, or to pick your kids up and drop them off at all these practices. Because with your boys and your daughters, to have one kid in sports, that was a lot for me with my daughter doing that. I couldn't imagine with several. And it's okay because we feel like, oh, we have to be at every game. And you don't. Those kids will be fine.
Yeah.
But outsource. And then another thing that you said was just kind of about, and I want April to add in this with her response, is just how the generations in our families culturally kind of see how we're doing it. Because I hear from my mom sometimes too about, make sure you take care of your husband. You're doing too much, like you got to be spending time with him. And I do, like, him and I have those conversations. I literally have blocked my entire month of August already on the calendar, and mine and his, that I will not take any catering event. I won't do any of these things. I'm going to do my day job. And then that month it frees up for us. But he's also very traditional. My husband is a little older than me. He is born and raised in Alabama. His mother and his father were together his entire life until his father passed away. He is the third youngest of 12 children.
Oh, wow.
So mom never worked out of the house. So he does have that traditional frame of mind. However, we make it work for us because it's not like that with me. I am a product of divorce, but I did have my mom and my dad simultaneously in my life the entire time. But my mom was a very strong woman, like with the tongue and everything. I mean, like, she'll say what comes to mind. And, she was very independent in that way. And for me, like, I'm like a city girl. I grew up in St. Louis, like, it's a city. So the way I saw the women in the family, and no diss on the men, but they were like the dominant ones in a way. My grandmother was very dominant. So, we've made it work over this 12 plus years that we've been together on me finding that harmony between my dominance, and I'm a Sagittarius. My mom's birthday is after mine, so I am my mother's child, and trying to find that harmony between the way that I am and then the way that he is, or the way that he expects me to be as a wife. And it works for us. But yes, do what works for you.
Got to do what works for you. And I will say for me, so just a little background on my family. My mom is from the South. She's from North Carolina, and she's one of 10. And 7 girls, lots of girls.
Wow.
And beautiful, beautiful women, very sweet. I mean, their family is odd. Most people think it's very odd. Like, they don't argue. All of those siblings together, and they really just all get along. It's very strange. I love it. But it is like, are there any disagreements here? Like, somebody has to disagree with someone, right? But the women, because they're Southern, they're very traditional. They take care of their man. I did not grow up like that because my mom, it was just her, and she never brought men around or anything. So I never really saw that type of interaction. She and my dad were together until I was 7. So the vast majority of my childhood was, just my mom, myself, my mom, and my brother. And when I would see my aunts interacting, like, or preparing a plate, I would just look like, hey, get up and get this whole plate. I'm not serving no man, so I just, for me, it was, I watched it, and it's beautiful. Like, now that I'm older, I can appreciate it. Like, oh, that is so nice. I'm still not like that, y'all. Like, I try to be, sometimes I'll catch myself, I'm making myself a plate, the kids are taken care of. I ain't thinking twice about Marcus, my husband. Like, he get his own plate. And then I'm like making it, I'm like, babe, you want me to make you a plate? And he's like, no, it's fine. Go ahead.
I definitely will say that for the most part, at home, even if, it's just him and I do make his plate, because I just kind of make them both at the same time. But for sure, when we are in social situations where his Southern family is involved.
Oh, yes. You make that plate.
I am loudly saying, hey, love, you want me to make your plate?
You want to roll with that?
I will make that plate, and I will go deliver it to him. Because I don't want nobody aunties and sisters talking about me.
And I'm totally opposite, right? And even like my husband's family, like, they're not like that. It's, they're traditional and to a degree, but like, no one, and even my aunts, like, again, my mom's family, my maternal side of the family, they're such sweet people, but I can see them sometimes just looking at me like, he's like, I could just, you could just hear their thoughts. Like, I know they disapprove of me. And they'll make like, Margaret, she want me to make you a plate. I'm like, yeah, y'all go ahead and make them a plate.
Yeah. My mom's side, even though it's
That's-
mostly city, they do still, they're plate makers too.
Yes,
Plate makers.
so I try to embody some of that just a little bit, here and there.
Well, he happy clearly because Marcus
He
ain't
doesn't
hungry.
care. It really,
Yeah, I'm gonna eat anyway.
he's gonna eat.
Or not.
It really doesn't bother him. Thank God. My husband and I have been together since I was 20. Okay,
That's
so
amazing.
and
Wow,
solid,
22
like no
years.
breaks,
That's
nothing.
Yeah.
awesome. That's awesome.
Okay, so we have been together for quite some time now, and I always think, God has such a sense of humor and I'm always amazed at how he's like just in the details for me, right? So it's like he knew that would be the kind of person that I would need. Like, I don't need a man that's gonna put all this extra stuff on me because I think because I didn't see a traditional
Yes.
marriage, and so I didn't really see that modeled in my home. In my mind, I had an idea in my mind of like what I would look like as a wife and what I would look like as a mother and these pressures that I would put on myself, right? And so I don't have a spouse who adds to that.
That's awesome.
If anything, he sort of takes that away from me, like, hey, let me take that off your plate. Like, you don't have to do that. Like, oh, I don't have to do that. Okay, cool, perfect. Almost to a fault. I'm sure he's like, man, I should have rethought that a little bit. But I just, so for me, I've seen that traditional look. I admire it. I'm like, oh, that is so sweet. Does that make me look? And again, this goes back to the definition of womanhood, right? And how you define it. Because then it makes me sit back and reflect. Like when I hear other people saying how they cater to their man, they do this and do that. And I'm like, should I be doing that? Does that make me a bad wife? And like one of you said, like, he's happy. So,
right.
Do what works for you.
Do what works.
We have to
like
get
that's
away from
gonna be
societal
that's the trend.
Right. People telling us what right looks like. Like right looks like it looks different in every household.
Every household.
What's
every
happening next
person,
door
every
with
life.
my neighbors
Yeah.
is probably completely different. On one side, I have Indian neighbors. On the left side, I have a white neighbor. We all have different backgrounds. We have different cultures. We just do things differently. You have to do what works for you. And I think what we do as women, we do get kind of caught up in trying to impress the wrong people. And if you worry about you and yours, you'll be okay.
Exactly.
I know there's this thing, and you ladies may have seen it on social media. I see this all the time. It's like this same argument that keeps recycling itself. It's like, when you make the plates, do you make your kids first or do you make it for your husband?
Yes, I've seen that. I've seen that
conversation. I'm like, first of all, put all the plates on the counter, fill them up, drop
not rocket science, y'all.
Trying to be efficient here.
Conversation.
And at this point, these kids are making their own plates too. I got everybody.
Matter of fact, the kids are making everybody else's plate.
And I'll tell them, like, make your daddy a plate.
I'm like, really? Are we really there to where it's like, we're going to make the man's plate and then we're going to make the kids' plate? Like, everybody's going to eat at the same time, except maybe even moms. And that goes back to womanhood. Because if we're all sitting at the dinner table and dad is eating, mom has her plate, which is probably getting cold, it's very much likely that she's over there trying to feed the kids. So we know who's going to eat last.
Exactly.
Likely is the mom. I mean, because society expects us to, right?
Yep.
So I have another question. There's this concept that is have it all. Do you see that as a myth or is that reality? Is it even possible to have it all? What do you think, Emily?
It reminds me of the question, like, well, how do you define success? How do you define being a good wife? How do you define, and when I think about it, it's the first thing that pops in my head is comparison is the thief of joy.
My favorite saying.
Because how I describe having it all may be completely different from even everyone on this, on this podcast, right? What makes me happy? That's how I define all. I don't have a house yet, right? I mean, this whole military thing has its own challenges, and maybe someday I will. But does my ownership of a house make me feel like I haven't gotten there yet? Not at this phase in life, honestly.
Right. I don't own a house yet either, but I could.
Yeah,
for the
right.
I'm paying up here in the DC area.
I hear you.
I own 2 houses in Texas.
Yeah.
2 mansions, girl, 2 mansions.
Yeah. It's
Literally.
am I healthy? Do I have the things that I need to survive?
Mhm.
You know, and it sounds like a lot of us have so many similarities. My dad was one of 11, 8 boys, 3 girls. I'm his only child, right?
Wow.
He was like,
And
the heck with
so,
that.
right, he was
He
like,
said no
no,
big family.
he lived through that. Yeah, that's right. And growing up, it was interesting to see them because they were perfectly content with the little bit that they had, you know, and it was
Mhm.
always this philosophy of we may not have a lot, but we will always have each other.
Mhm.
And, you know, how do you define being rich? How do you define having it all? It's what is bringing you, like, in all honest to God, joy in life.
Yes.
To some people, it's, hey, you know what? I've worked really hard and I've always looked forward to owning X, Y, or Z. And they fulfilled that point. And for
Mhm.
others, it's just like, you know what? At the end of the day, if I can come back to whatever home or apartment or whatever that I'm able to have over my head and sit down with a little cup of whatever and put my feet up and thank
Mhm.
God that I lived through another day, then so be it. But I don't, yeah, I don't know that. I think it is a little bit more of a myth, but it's also part of, um, well, how do you define all? Because
Right.
how we individually define it is going to let us know, you know, myth or fact, I guess.
I actually like the way that you answer that question because I wasn't really sure what you were going to say. I know that, sometimes there are probably other women who are looking at all three of us on our social media, maybe in the workplace. I mean, April and I work 100% remote, so but and they're probably like, "Oh, she has it all."
Mhm.
But they have no idea. They have no idea. And I would say for me, I don't feel like I have it all, but I feel like I have all I need.
Yeah.
I'm in a very healthy relationship with an incredibly supportive person that I told him, if you die, I'm going to kill you. Like, that's how much I need him, okay? That's how much I need him.
Yes.
I have a supportive network of friends. My family's good. Financially, I'm doing great. For the first time in my life, I can actually say, okay, I'm really doing okay
Yeah.
financially. I mean, I'm pursuing my goals. I feel like I have it all. But then I realized that a lot of those things come at the sacrifice of my health, the
Mm.
my mental health, my physical health, my emotional health, because trying to have it all and then dealing with so many things externally, especially relationships wise. And I mean, with friends, with family, it can be draining. So I would just tell people never look at a person and say to yourself they have it all, because you really don't know what is going on behind closed doors or what that person is dealing with that maybe they haven't even, spoken to anyone else about.
Yeah.
I have all that I need, but I don't have it all. And I think it's a myth. I think
Yeah.
that to have it all, it's impossible, because to have certain things, you come at the sacrifice of something else.
Mm.
So what do you think, April?
So first, I totally agree, like with what you were saying, just as far as, when people look on from the outside looking in, right? And I always say, especially when we're talking about social media, shoot, even just at work or interactions, people that don't know you deeply, you're looking at a keyhole. You're looking through a keyhole to someone's life. And social media is real tricky like that, right? So people show you what they want you to see. Same
Exactly.
thing when you go out, right? So I don't know if I'm sure you have, you're trying to get out the house. Everybody, you got an event to go to. You got to take all the kids with you. And it is a disaster trying to leave. And you're just like, I just want to have fun. We're just supposed to go here and supposed to have a great time. And we're going to see all these people. So
Yeah.
everybody just get in the car now. And you get in the car and it's like, and you turn around, you're like, and when we get in there, put
Don't
a
embarrass
smile on
me.
your face. Act like you're happy to be here, even if you're not. right?
Right.
Because
Yeah.
we do, like, we all wear a mask, right? So
Yes.
at various points, and you have to, because it's no one's business what's happening behind closed doors, right? So there's some balance there too. Um, so I think that, you know, you have to be careful looking from the outside into someone else's life and saying, man, I really wish I had that. Or if I had that thing, that's what I'm missing right there. And Emily, when you said comparison is a thief of joy, that is actually one of my favorite sayings. I say it to my children all the time because they compare themselves to each other, and they'll even finish the sentence. I'm like, what is comparison? The thief of joy. Exactly. I was like, see, you were happy and now you're upset because you looked over there at your sister and you said, well, how does she get that? How did she get a full cup of juice and I got this much juice, right? So, so I started off saying it to my girls, and then it started to speak to me. I'm like, oh, April, do you need to hear that too? Because I think it's human nature, to look to your left and look to your right, and you hear all these wonderful things that people are doing, and you see people taking these trips, and it's like, when am I gonna go? Like, when do I get to go to, go there or do these things? And it's taken me some time. So the question of, having it all, is it a myth? I think that I sort of agree with Emily that I don't know that it's a myth. I think it's how you define having it all. What is your all? I think that we tend to, when we think of all, we have a fantasy in our mind.
Yes.
And I used to say this thing like years ago. I was like, oh, I'm going to start this podcast, or I'm going to write this book. It's going to be called Ditch the Fantasy, right? Because it's a fantasy. We have this idea, wherever it comes from, right, of what we think our life is going to look like, what that trajectory is, what our spouse will be like, if we want a spouse or don't. If we want children, how will they act? How will they behave? The wonderful things that they're going to do, where you're going to live, what type of job you're going to have, vacation. You have all these things in your mind, and they're goals, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with trying to achieve certain things. But when it becomes the thing that we chase after and it is totally unrealistic, then it's unhealthy. It's like an unhealthy idea of having it all. I'm never going to achieve said thing. Or if I never achieve said thing, am I not happy? Am I not satisfied?
Right.
Years ago, before I had my youngest, I lost a child. So it was a son. And so it would have been my only boy. And so when my husband and I were in counseling, the therapist looked at me and she said, what if your situation never changes? There were other things happening and I was just like, oh, like we didn't have a house. Like we were just in a weird transition period. We were making huge sacrifices, lots of no's, like, no, we can't do this. We can't do that. Because we had goals, we had financial goals and we were being really disciplined. And the therapist was like, well, what if that never changes? Are you not satisfied with your life? And I looked at her. First of all, I didn't like that she asked me that question. Definitely not in front of my husband. So I didn't appreciate that.
Right.
Like, sis,
Like, I'm
stand
gonna lie to
down.
you right now.
Like, whose side are you on?
Right.
But it really made me think and sort of reevaluate, what is it that brings me joy? And now we are, like, to your point, Jessica, we're in a great place, in a great position. We've sacrificed, we've done all these things. And I feel like, I say this to my husband regularly because he puts a lot of pressure on himself to provide this life, right? And I'm like, I'm living my dream life. And the dream for me is much like what you all shared. It's a spouse that respects me, that loves me, that cares for me. I can pursue things if I want to. I have the support. My children are here. They're healthy. My family is here. They're healthy. Like, we haven't experienced a lot of loss. We have both of our parents. He still has a living grandmother. Like, she'll be 90 this year. Like, we have so many things. And so I think it's just, when we think of all, it's just, what does all entail? For me, all entails just health, having people around me that love me and care for me, being able to do the things that I love to do, having a job. I'm actually doing what I love to do. It doesn't mean the job doesn't get on my nerves. It does. Like, I wish I didn't have to work. I wouldn't mind not having to work.
I
But I
wish
do.
wish I didn't have to earn PTO and just take my computer on a cruise.
I know you want to go on your cruise.
Girl, I love my cruises, and I can't take my computer on my cruise. So
You
although
can't do
I
that,
love my
child.
job, I'm like,
No, ma'am.
right,
Not on the open seas. So I think it's how you define it, and
it
I think you
is.
just have to be realistic and be honest with yourself. Take the
It
pressure off.
is. No, and I love how you all explained comparison as the thief of joy, because we do kind of see that a lot. So we often, women, we just compare ourselves to other people for no reason, and not all of us, but just as a whole, we do that. And especially now with social media, like, it has its advantages, but it has its like incredible disadvantages.
Yes.
And honestly, I think it has more disadvantages than advantages, in my
Agreed.
opinion. But it's like, you would see, just say, a woman A, very successful, very wealthy, very beautiful, seeming to have it all.
Yep.
And she might be broken. She may feel like the people around her are only there to use her. She might not feel genuinely loved. And then you have woman B, who has an amazing spouse, the supportive family, beautiful kids that love her, living paycheck to paycheck in a 1-bedroom apartment. And it's like she's comparing herself to woman A because she wished that she had the riches, and then woman A is comparing herself to woman B because she really just wants love. So it's like they both are comparing themselves to one another. And because of that, they're lacking joy. Their joy is stolen because they are hoping for something that they, don't have. And it's like, we can't do that. And just like both of you ladies say, you have to really define what it is to you to have it all. And then don't compare, because you don't know what's going on in everybody's life. They
You
wear
don't.
masks. Things are happening. The grass is not always greener, right?
It's
As we say.
not.
It's a cliche, but it's super true.
It's true. It's true.
And so, April, I know you mentioned the miscarriage. So I'm really sorry to hear that. I have dealt with the same thing. And, it's like, I feel like a lot of women have. And we're expected to just like go on about our business about it and not even talk about it. I am not going to lie. I tell you the truth. So I've had about 4 miscarriages, right?
Wow.
I had a miscarriage on a Friday at work in the Pentagon, and I was back in the office on Monday.
Oh my gosh.
I didn't even tell anybody about it. Not about
Isn't
the
that
person.
something?
Yep. The office. It happened. I'm like, why do I feel this should not be? And then I went to the bathroom and I'm like, oh no, ran down, they did my blood work, and then my levels were falling too low. Right back at work on Monday, because I felt that I had to do it all, that I had to be there, that I had to be there for my job. I didn't take any time off to handle my situation, my mental health, or nothing.
Yeah.
And women, we feel like, why is it that we feel that we have to be the ones to do the sacrificing? And I'm not bashing men. I'm just saying, because I'm not saying they don't feel that way, but women, we feel like we have to be all and do all for all.
Yeah.
And so I'll ask you, ladies, what is some of the biggest challenge, or one of the biggest challenges that you faced in juggling your various roles as a woman? How about you, Emily?
Well, thank you, ladies, for sharing your story. I've suffered it too, right? And so and very similar to you, Jessica, when it started happening, definitely at work. And the immediate thing that came to my mind, aside from I need my husband right now, right, was, how do I tell my team? I felt this sense of self-inflicted guilt and shame. And to this day, I don't know why, right? But I think a part of that is because we don't talk about it. And it wasn't until it happened, and I'm telling my mom, and I'm telling my sister, and I'm telling my grandmother, that I start hearing stories of, I went through it too. And meanwhile, I'm shocked, because I'm like, when? I never knew.
We're 3 for 3 here. I mean, look at that. That's insane.
And it immediately just, I think, flipped something for me, because I think I heard and I thought I knew what it would be like to support someone going through that until I went through it myself.
Yeah.
And at that point, like having to let go of that and openly communicate that with everyone that I worked with, because eventually they were going to ask, why is she out? What's going on? Da-da. Especially in the military, because it's like accountability. You got to know where everyone is. Um, and people were just shocked. But even more surprising to me was that thankfully the men that were in the room didn't blink an eye, and the first things out of their mouth was, why are you here and what can I do to take the load off, right? And they were men that were part of our team. I was senior to them, but that didn't matter. Rank, title, all of that out the window. At that point in time, we were all human beings trying to support one another. And to this day, I will forever be grateful for them. And so I think for me, what is one of the biggest challenges I go through is not being afraid to be vulnerable, not thinking, going back to what we've been talking about, not thinking that I have to do it all, and really embracing that village. We say it like it takes a village, it takes a village. But sometimes when that village offers a hand, we're like, no, I got it.
Right.
No, I don't. My mental health suffered, my physical health suffered, and I had to just stop and say, you know what? I am going to take extra time off work. I am going to give all of this to someone else to deal with, because right now I'm trying to deal with myself. And then through it all, giving myself grace. That's probably the hardest. We beat ourselves up and this sense of guilt. And then my husband laughs a little bit because he's like, it's that Catholic guilt that comes on. And it's like, maybe there's some degree of truth to that. But as women, we do that a lot to ourselves. And learning to give myself grace. That's hard. So, yeah.
It is. Well,
yeah.
April, how about you?
Mine is similar to Emily. So I would definitely say it's the grace piece for me. I have a tendency to think I have to be perfect at everything, right? So I've got to kill it. I've got to knock it out the park. I've got to, mom of the year, wife of the year, friend of the year, colleague of the year, whatever it is, right? So I just have this pressure. And again, it's like, who put this on me? Did I do that, or did somebody else put this? Why am I so heavy right now? I don't understand. But it's I joke, I say this often. There's a lot of truth to it. I say all the time when it comes to my children, I'm like, I just don't want to be the main topic of discussion when they're laying on somebody's sofa later on talking to their therapist. I just don't want it to be mom. I'm just really trying not to mess them up, but the thing is that, and you all have probably gone through this as well, as moms. You realize, I think the biggest pressure for me is being a mom, right? And just making sure like I'm doing this right. And my husband and I were actually just talking the other day about this, like, there's no real manual here, like you don't really know, like you put a little of this in there, you put a little of that in there, and it could be the perfect recipe and it still be like, oh, why didn't my cake rise? Like what happened to my child? That is not, we did not put that in that child. That wasn't our doing. Because they have free will, so they could do whatever they want at the end of the day, right? So, I think being a mom is where I find the most pressure, more than anything, and where I tend to lack a lot of grace toward myself, because I just think like I'm supposed to know what I'm doing. I'm supposed to have the right answer. I'm supposed to know which way to go. And when I mess up or I lose my cool, or, I just, it's really difficult to recover. I have a hard time. I give myself a hard time, and thank God I do have a husband who's like, hey, look, you're tripping. Like, just relax. It's fine. And I'll go and I'm very humble. I'll tell my child, like, I'm really sorry. That was not appropriate, or I could have handled that differently. And I'm listening now. I'm really, I'm very open and reflective in that way. But what I was going to say is, as as a mom, I've come to respect my parents even more,
Oof,
and
yes.
have more of an understanding of how when you become a parent, you still got all this other stuff
Yeah.
that you are dealing with. All your trauma, all your experience, you're still dealing with all of these things, and then you gotta help this little human. Like what? How? I still got childhood stuff I'm dealing with. How can I help my child? So you come to realize, like, when you look back on your parents, like, oh wow, they did the best they could with what they had, with their capacity, whatever that was, whatever that looked like. And so for me, it's just reminding myself, like, hey, the kids are going to be okay. They'll be fine. You're going to be fine. You're doing a great job. Even when you drop the ball, and it's acknowledging, like, ooh, I dropped the ball on that one. That I did not do a good job with that. And that is okay. I'm not supposed to be perfect. We're perfectly imperfect. We are
That's
not
right.
designed to be perfect, and realizing that it is not my response, even for my children. It is not my responsibility to be their all. I'm not, it's not how this relationship was
Mm,
designed, and the older they get, the more true that becomes, right? And Jessica, you know that because you have one in
First
college,
and
right?
18.
Yeah. So you know that they're gonna leave. You gotta give them some space, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, all that to say, for me, it's definitely the grace piece.
Yeah. And I will say that one thing I always tell people when they want to call me and talk about, kind of how they're feeling, especially when they feel like they've fallen short on something, I tell
Mm-hmm.
them progress over perfection.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're not going to be perfect. It's literally impossible. But are you making progress? Are you getting better
Yes.
every day? Are you moving the ball down the line? Are you accomplishing things? And another thing is, you're right. There are books, but those books, do they really apply? No, because you are a mom of three, and all three of your daughters are different. Emily
Totally
has two
different.
boys, and they're different. You're
hmm
gonna parent them very likely.
Differently. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. In a different way, you're gonna parent them based on the type of parenting that they need. One person
Yes.
probably gonna need you to get in their butt a little bit more.
Yep.
One person probably needs a little bit of empathy. The other person is like, I don't really need you to tell me anything, mom. I'm gonna watch what you and dad do, and I'm just gonna emulate that.
Right.
And then one thing, and then another one of those pressures of parenthood or womanhood is that, like you said, when you've taught them all and they go out, they have their free will, and then people want to blame the parents.
Yeah.
You can't always blame the parents. Sometimes
Mm-mm.
people have really shitty parents.
Right. Yes.
Shitty parents probably had shitty parents, or they
That's
probably
true.
had trauma. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And
Yes.
so, like you said, they probably did the best that they could. They're
Yep.
dealing with stuff too. And that's the thing with us women. It's like we are always supposed to be resilient, and we're supposed to,
Yep.
be superstars, even though we are dealing with so many other things. And so we
Mm-hmm.
often put our mental health on the back
Mm-hmm.
burner to deal with all of that stuff. And so that leads me into like the next question. How do you overcome, as a woman, as a mother, as a spouse, whatever role or roles you want to talk about? How do you overcome that, like, self-doubt or that imposter syndrome when, it seems like everything is working against you and you don't know how you're going
Yeah.
to make it? You made it because you're here. So how
Mm-hmm.
did you make it? How do you make it? What type of advice would you give another woman who may be dealing with that? What do you think, Emily?
I, I love your progress over perfection. I was actually writing that one down too, um, because I think that's just so important. And I remember seeing a little like a meme or something not too long ago, and it was something to the extent of like no one can what is it? No one can compete with me because I want you to win too. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and the second part to that was the bigger part, right? Because it's like, going back to the whole comparison and this competition and all of that, that's where that doubt tends to come in. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
it's not in, it doesn't tend to creep itself up in its safe space. It's when we're looking at something else. And I love that April mentioned, like, social media sometimes is more harm than good, because I
Yeah.
100% agree with you. Pinterest is the devil. I'm convinced, right? Like it is. Like
Pinterest.
I'm just trying to put like a
Oh my
cupcake and a
God.
couple balloons out, and I'm like, how I don't even know how that
It turned into
happens,
a whole
right?
thing, right?
Yeah. And so it's it's those moments when I feel like I have left my absolute comfort zone, where I'm like, "Ooh, what just happened?" When I
Mm,
do have that, like with the kids, especially if I have that moment where I find myself snapping and I
mhm.
have to pause, like really pause, be like, "What just happened? Am I really upset at the fact that they spilled milk all over the table or
Right.
whatever it is? Or am I more upset at something else and it's just building on top of that?"
Yes.
But I allowed the 3-year-old to be my excuse, and then I feel guilty
Mhm.
about it, right?
Yep.
And that, man, how do you get over self-doubt? Surrounding yourself with people that know you better than you know yourself.
Yeah.
It's women like you all. It's having that one or two trusted
Mhm.
ears at work, that it's like, I'm just not feeling myself today.
Mhm.
And for them to be that person that sometimes very sternly have to remind you, what are you talking about? Knock it
Yep.
off. Go
Yep.
wash your face
Yeah.
and come back out here and do what you know you're capable of doing, because you're
Mhm.
having a moment, and that's okay. Have your moment, cry it out, scream it out, do what you got to do, but reel it back in. For me, that's what I need more often than not. It's
Mhm.
someone else reminding me that I can do things, and
Yeah.
that I've proven to myself that I can do things. And so there's no reason for me to doubt myself.
Yeah.
But yeah, I need a little bit of tough love every now and then.
I definitely call it a council, right? I'm having
Yes.
a
Mhm.
conversation with a person. I think we collectively decided it was called a council. And you
Mhm.
have
Yeah.
to really like ask yourself, who is on my council? Is
Mhm.
it my parents, my favorite coworker that I have the best water cooler talk with,
Yeah.
my spouse, maybe my middle child, God, or whatever
Mhm.
your faith is? Like, who is really on your council? And when you
Yeah.
have really supportive people, like you said, Emily, that's what you need. That is how you get yourself out of these like holes that we dig ourselves in when we think that we're falling short.
Yeah.
But we're like, you know what? Wait a minute. Let me call, my best friend, because
Mhm.
Mhm.
she knows how to put me back in my place and remind me that I'm that girl.
Yes.
Like, I got
Yes.
this. What do you think, April?
Yeah. I think I totally agree with that. I would, and to add to it, right? So I think it's really important to, at this age, so I can't believe I'm in my 40s, y'all. But
I'm with you.
Almost there. Next year I turn 40.
trying to figure out how this happened.
I'm
I don't
excited
know.
about it though. I
I don't
am.
know. It is beautiful. It is. And well, because with that, with being in my 40s, I don't know if it's like something, a light switch, flipped on or what. I don't know what happened, right? But I feel more confident than I've ever been. I feel more sure of myself than I've ever felt. Maybe it's like, I'm 40, you can't tell me anything because I've
40 and
lived at
fabulous,
least a
baby.
little bit.
Yep.
I've lived a little.
Mhm.
So I think it's being, I think the more connected and grounded you are within yourself sets you up for success in regards to being able to bounce back when you have that self-doubt. So I will say, because when I was younger, I did pour a lot. I mean, I still pour a lot into people, right? And into other things outside of myself. But I've come to realize, like, oh no, April, your cup has to be full too. Or at least like let it be halfway. Like, can we get it half full? Like, I know it's not gonna be totally full, right? Not at this stage in my life, not in this season. And I'm totally fine with that. But I realize that when I am not filling myself up, I'm not working out, I'm not connecting with people outside of my home, outside of work, like when I'm not making those good girlfriend connections, you know, when I'm just doing life, that the self-doubt comes in more frequently, and it's harder to shake. Right.
Yes.
So, you know, you talk to your spouse, but I feel like sometimes like talking to your spouse is like talking to your parents. You know, you talk to your parents, it's like, well, you're just saying that because you're my mom, you know, or you're just saying that because you're my husband. It's like, you know, and then I'll go have another a conversation with someone else, and I'll tell my husband, it's like, you know, I told you that, right? I know, babe.
My
I love
husband
you. And I,
used to do that. He's like, "Oh,
Yeah.
ain't that what I already said?" I'm like, "Well, yeah."
presented it differently.
Even you get a second opinion with medical. Like, I had to get my second opinion. Okay,
Exactly.
it
You
doesn't
know,
just.
so I think it's really just it's the prepping for those moments. Like, so when things are going well, and you know, it's just like, okay, but let me just make sure I'm filling up my tank. You know, let me make sure I'm in my word, I'm praying, I'm connecting with my friends, I'm spending time with my husband, I'm spending time by myself. You know, I'm doing these things that bring me joy. So when the storm comes, when the cloud comes, because it comes, it's guaranteed. Where the at every mountaintop, every peak, you look down, there's a valley, guarantee. And you're not going to stay at the peak forever, and you're not going to stay in the valley forever. So I think it's, you know, because sometimes some things tend to you do want to work out on your own or figure out on your own. And I think it's remembering those things, you know, remembering like when I'm in my valley, when I'm struggling, when I'm having a hard time, I can look up, like, I know where I was, and I know I can get back there. I know I'm that girl. Right. And it's filling filling yourself up. But a good girlfriend talk, a good pep talk, like you said, somebody that tells you, girl, you done? You
Right.
finished?
Right.
Now you
Now
done
that
got
you
it off
done
your
all that
chest.
out.
All right, now get on out there.
Yeah.
You know, like you need that person in your corner, you know, that coach
Yeah.
in your corner to tell you, get back out there, keep fighting.
Yes. So I'm thinking, you know, when you watch TV a lot, you have the mom at home, and then dad is like, okay, I'm leaving. I'm going on a business trip, or not a business trip, excuse me. I'm going on a golfing trip, you know, with the fellas, or I'm going on a fishing trip for the weekend. And so, you know, they often show the man kind of taking some time out
Mm-hmm.
of his familial obligations, I guess you could say, to
Mm-hmm.
just unwind and, you know, relax with his friends and do the things that he loves. And they don't normally show that. I mean, I see it on like Real Housewives and stuff
Right.
like but you know, we all know. I'm not even going to talk about it, but we all know, right? They just
Yes.
doing it for the camera. They don't even like each other,
No, they don't. Not even a little bit.
right? Not even a little. So if you do those things, just, you know, give yourself some time and some self care. What is it that you do,
Mm.
it's
Emily?
it's so funny you mentioned when they show it, it's like the men going on golf trips, because inevitably when they show women, it's like going to the spa. And don't get me
Yeah.
wrong, I love a good pedicure and
Me
love a
too.
good massage, but
Oh,
those are very like very short lived.
yeah.
They kind of
I'm
come
back
and
in two
go.
Mm-hmm.
hours.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, all right, now I got to go back to the laundry and the dishes and everything else.
Exactly.
Um,
Yep.
so how do I like have those moments of self-care? For me, it's just sitting in a beach. It's,
Mm.
you know, you were talking about your cruises, right? And
Mhm.
what is it that when I do it, I find myself smiling and just feeling
Mm-hmm.
so. Not too long ago, we went to Legoland,
Oh,
Yes.
and I've got a 3-year-old and an 8-year-old, right? So completely for them. Oh, no, no, no. It was completely for me. I
oh, that's
think I
Yeah.
had more fun at that little amusement park than anything
Oh.
else.
oh,
Um, and it's just getting out. Like for me, it's getting out and just doing something a little different. If it's
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
hiking, if it's paddleboarding, and let me tell you, I'm not one for deep water. If I can't see the bottom, it's not
Oh, that's
happening.
hilarious. You sound like my husband.
Yeah. And so, but it's just like when I get to go out and do a little snorkeling or go do it, and it's like, okay, I'm gaining a little confidence, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
finding myself happy that I got over some of these little fears.
Yeah.
That is what brings me like this sense of, wow, that felt really good. I want to do it again.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
good workout, there's so much more than the spa. And so I, to the extent that, the folks out there are listening and looking for new ideas, it's whatever gives you that feeling that it could be it could be a great book. Like, Lord knows, like you sit down with that good book and it's like, hold on, I'm not done yet. Like, nope, shh, mommy's still reading.
Lost
like
in the book.
That's right. Yeah. And like there's a lot out there that I've kind of come across that gives me that feeling. I don't know how to quite describe it. But it's just that, like, ooh, that felt good. I want to do it again. And so whatever gives you that internal feeling of like, wow, that just settled well with me and I need more of that in my life. And, to April's point, having those moments when you are at the peaks so that when those valleys come in, you've got something to sit back on and like, okay, a few more weeks and then I can go back to whatever my happy place is.
Yes. I'll definitely say that for me, my things aren't necessarily solo. Like they might just be with friends. I mean, I love brunch.
Oh,
I absolutely love brunch. I don't know if I love brunch because of the place we're going. I don't know if it's because of the food. I don't know if it's because of the drinks. I don't know if it's because when me and my girlfriends go to brunch, we dress up for brunch.
It's all the things.
I love brunch. So I would definitely say brunch is definitely one of my things. And then honestly, I really just love binge watching. Like I'll find a TV show. Like I like TV shows. I don't necessarily care. I love going to the movies, especially with my husband. That's our thing. But I love binge watching TV shows on my own because at least they last for a long time. Movies are so short lived, and I feel like, oh, it's over. And then that's it. Like right now, funny enough, it's like I'm binge watching Sanford and Son on Peacock, right? It might seem super weird. Like why in 2024 is this, 30-something-year-olds watching? It's because it is a classic. It's funny. I mean, they didn't try too hard. They seem more authentic. And it actually brings me back to my childhood. So it's kind of like I get to feel that a little bit. It's nostalgic. And I'm so far away from all of my family. And so kind of watching that, it just kind of, recenters me a little bit. So I would say that, I mean, I go to Massage Envy and I'll go get a total body stretch or I'll go get a massage, but I'm with you. Like when I come home and then after I pile on all my duties, like the stretches, it just didn't even make no sense to spend the money on a stretch, spend the money on a massage. You know what I mean? So I'm totally there with you. But I would say that's probably my main things. Is just the binge watching TV because I can't focus when I read a book. I try so hard, but my brain is thinking about like all these other things going on, so I can't like fully immerse myself in the story like I can when I binge watch TV. Because at least when I'm binge watching TV, I can be on my computer doing other stuff.
Yeah.
But then I would say definitely just going out to eat or brunch. I don't know. I love that. And it's harder as we get older because, the metabolism's slowing down. You got to work out a bit more and hormones and all that stuff. But Lord, I just wish it wasn't so hard because I love it so much.
Me too. I love eating.
How about you, April? How do you take time for yourself?
Yeah. So when Emily and even Jessica, when you mentioned, going to the spa, it's so funny, especially when I had younger children, those things that I used to enjoy doing sort of started to feel like a chore or like, oh, I have to go do like, oh my gosh, I just don't have enough time. Like I have to go get my hair done. Like how much time is that going to take? And then, I was a breastfeeding mom. So it's like, okay, well,
wow, yeah.
How much time do I have to be away? Am I going to have to take the pump? Like everything just felt like a chore, even the things that used to bring me joy. And I think when that happened when I was younger and when my children were younger, it kind of made me sad. And I had to figure out like, well, who am I now? Right. I know who I was before I got married and before I had children, but now I have children. I'm not just a mom. I'm not just a wife. Like who is April, and what does she like now? So at different points and different seasons of my life, that has looked very differently, So like when I did have younger children at home and I had a harder time pulling myself away. Cause again, I do have a great husband who's like, bye, go. Like, cause He's gonna go play his basketball. He's gonna go play his golf. And he's gonna do those things. And he's like, look, don't say nothing when I go because I told you to go and you didn't want to go.
Literally, it's my husband. He's like,
it's like Michelle Obama said that about Barack. Like she was mad at him one time. He came home, he's playing basketball. She's like, I've been here with these kids, and he's like, well, you could go somewhere. Nobody told you had to be here. We punish ourselves.
Right? That's that guilt we have where we feel
yes, like I can't. And it's like, don't you feel guilty? No, I went to play basketball. What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
So, when my children were younger, it did look a little different. I didn't go out with my girlfriends like that. I just didn't have the time. They didn't have the time. My girlfriends, we kind of all had children about the same age. Or, we would do a play date. And that play date would be my time to connect with my girlfriends, So that was sort of my way of like filling myself up, And then, now that our children are older, I'm not doing no play dates. I don't want to see those kids. If I'm out, bless your soul, Emily. I went to Legoland last summer. I was like, I'm so glad my children are having a
kids. Well, look, Emily said it wasn't for the kids. Emily was like,
listen, I need to know what you did, Emily, because I didn't have that experience, and I joke all the time, like when we take the kids on vacation, they're on vacation. We're on a trip. Yeah, I'm here to curate all the fun and all the things. That's not a vacation. That's a vacation for them. And I love it. I enjoy the memories and all that. But that's not for me. It is to a degree, right? But it's really for them. And so, now that my children are older, I recently, when I turned 40, I went on a girls' trip. I had not done that since I was in college.
Never done that yet. Not yet. Jessica. I want to.
Do it. Make it a priority. I'm trying to tell you. I came back, my girlfriend's good girlfriend from high school, one of my oldest girlfriends, and she has 4 kids. Okay. So, and they are school age children. And then another girlfriend of ours, she has 2 kids, school age children. And then myself, the 3 of us went to Tulum. And I was just like, y'all, like we took a trip. Like we took a girls trip. I said, listen, we got to do this again. Do this again, y'all. Now we haven't done it since. That's okay. But I did that. And then I went on a trip with my mom, just my mom and I. We went to Texas. I did that last year. Like, so the trip for me, it is vacation. And the reason why vacation is like the thing is because it gives, like what you all said, you do all that stuff. You go and you get your nails done, you get a massage, then you come right back home. And it's like, well, what was the point of that? Yeah. Right. Mm-hmm. But when you take a trip, and it doesn't have to be somewhere far, you don't have to take a plane, but even just my husband and I, this is my pushing. He's like, we don't need to do all that. But I'm like, let's just get out the house. Let's go do a staycation. Let's get a hotel in Baltimore, in DC, like be outside of the home, because it's something about being away. I was just talking to my sister about this, just with, as far as like taking a trip with your husband, like the first time I went away when my kids were younger, I was sick. Like, oh, my babies, I miss them. So, day 1, day 2, I'm like, oh.
Now you're like, forget them
child,
kids.
Now I'm like this. Give me my stuff. I'll see y'all later. You can call me if you want to. You can WhatsApp me if you want to. No, I'm still like checking the cameras. My husband's like, please vacate. Please stop checking in. We're fine. Yeah. But being away, like I went to Jamaica for my birthday this year. Oof. My mom, my cousin, my aunts, my husband was here with the kids. I told him, I said, oh, I'm taking a trip every birthday. You don't have to come if you don't want to. It's okay. I'm doing this every March, because I came back and I felt so good. I just felt like, oh, there's April. Mm-hmm. Like, because you get so wrapped up in these roles and what you're doing, and you do lose yourself, you forget because you have all these other things that are competing for your attention. So being away is just that is my thing. That's my new go-to. And that's just been over the past couple of years. for me, myself.
Okay.
I'm not even outside of my husband.
Well, I would definitely do a girls trip. I just haven't, because every time me and my girlfriends try to plan one, we just can never like agree on a schedule.
You
But
can't get it out the group chat. That's what
no,
they say.
get
You
out the
you
group
got
chat.
it.
I'm not
Yes.
joking. Like, so if y'all listening, I'm throwing y'all
Tell 'em.
because you
And
know
you
what,
know
like,
what
go
you
ahead.
know what you got to do, Jessica? You have to just say, all right, y'all, this is the date. Who can make it? And it may not be everyone. Because then
Yeah,
that's the other thing. Like, it doesn't always work.
It's true.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's okay
We're
too.
trying
You
to do
know,
that right now. Yeah, we're
yeah,
like, I think we are giving somebody until tomorrow, and if they can't make it, it's unfortunate because we'd love to have it, but we
we
like, we need
love
to get it
you.
booked because I already put that time aside on my calendar for it, and I
Yes.
want it to happen. That's actually going to be a couples trip though, and I've never done that either, so that'll be
Oh,
fun.
I love
Oh,
couples trips too. They're
Yeah.
so much
But
fun.
I encourage my husband to do it. Like if he's like, I'm gonna go to Texas because my friend is having a birthday party or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. I'm like, okay, have fun. Like
Yes.
I don't even care if he checks in with me. Like I don't, as long as when you're supposed to be home, you home. I know you alive. We're good.
Hello.
I mean, I definitely encourage him all the time to do that because I do think that it's important. I
It
feel like
is.
you can't just be worried about the household. You can't just be worried about the office. You can't just be worried about the kids. Like you have to take care of yourself because
You do.
if yourself isn't whole, then you can't
Mm-hmm.
be your best self for everyone else. You know what I mean?
Nope.
So you have to give people that space. If you don't have the trust, that's a whole nother problem.
Hello.
So I'm like, okay, have fun. Bye bye. The beauty of it is that I'm in the bed at 7:30 when he's gone.
Mm-hmm.
In the bed at
Yeah.
7:30.
Yeah.
Maybe binge watching TV until about midnight, but I'm in the bed. When he's here, I'm getting off the couch at midnight because we've been binge watching something together.
Mm-hmm.
We're going upstairs. I'm tossing and turning for a couple hours, and then I'm not refreshed when I get up for work. So
Yeah.
if you want to go, go. I don't care, but you better bring your tail back. That's all I care.
Just come on back. Well, and Jessica, it took me years to get to be that way,
Yeah,
right? So again, from past experience, trauma that you hold on to,
exactly.
like it was just like, well, what do you mean you want to go somewhere? You don't want to do everything with me? Like, hold up. My
Yeah.
husband's like, nah,
Yep.
I love you, but
Everybody like has to have their own space. You have
everybody
to give
has to have
people their
you
space.
really need that, and to your point, if there's a woman out there who has a hard time with that, and your spouse or your significant other, whomever, hasn't given you a reason to feel that way, then you need to go to therapy and figure out what is it. Why do you feel that your significant other should do everything with you, or you should do everything with that person, and that you all can't have your own separate thing? You can have separate lives, right? Separate experiences,
Yeah.
but still be together and have a strong relationship. And it's crucial. It really is crucial. So
I'm like, don't let old trauma make new drama. That's what I say.
yes.
Mm.
What the last person did to
Write
you,
that down.
I ain't did it yet. And
That's
I
true.
Right.
probably likely ain't gonna do it.
That's
So
true.
Right.
bye. Look,
Yes.
he might not be Felicia. Bye, Felix. See when you get home. It's okay. I ain't doing that. I'm sitting in the house, binge watching
Right.
TV, probably, dealing with some clients, doing
Mm-hmm.
something like this. And at 7:30, I'm in the bed.
Yes.
In the bed. So I mean, you have to have that trust. So if you don't
You
have that
do.
trust, then like you said, you're gonna need therapy for that anyways. And I'm
Yeah.
definitely a proponent of any kind of therapy, whether it's
Me too,
personal,
Mhm.
Shannon.
relationship, whatever. Get your therapy check.
Mm-hmm.
So before we end, I want to ask one more question to you ladies. We know we talked about society's expectations, and we talked about the need to always feel like we have to be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
What advice would you give to the next woman on sort of combating that? What about you, April?
I would say to any woman out there who is really struggling with what society has put on you, with maybe your own thoughts and fantasies, which you've put on yourself, or even maybe even it's your significant other that's maybe putting that on you, is you have to be true to yourself and be honest with yourself. You have to love on yourself, and you have to figure out what does that look like for you. I already said it, therapy. Therapy is a big piece. I've been in and out of therapy since I was about 21. It's always the best decision that I've ever made, because it helped me to identify where my trauma lies, why I react and respond the way that I do. Why do I feel like I have to be all the things, and why I want to be perfect and want everybody to look perfect and do the right thing or the right thing. So I would just encourage any woman out there who's really struggling in that area is to really seek counsel and get therapy to figure out where to identify where it's coming from, and then once you get there, because the thing is, it's like a lot of times the self-help books and the influencers and things like that, they are kind of like, they give you advice, and it's kind of like it's like trimming your hedges, right? Or it's like a weed. Let's use a weed. All right. You cut a weed down, it grows right back like that.
Oh my goodness. My husband hates it. He's like, come out here and help me. I'm like,
why don't the flowers grow this well? I don't understand. Somebody tell me, why won't my shrubs grow as strong and quickly as this weed? And a weed can look beautiful too. Like, don't get me started there, right? So, like you're cutting, you're trimming, you cut the weed. But if you never get to the root of it, it just keeps coming back. And so the root it's important for every woman to get to the root. What is it that is causing me to react this way? What is it that is driving me and motivating me to do this, to say this, to strive for this thing? If you never get to the root and you just keep trimming around the edges of it, you keep trimming it down, you're just going to continue to struggle and battle, and it will deteriorate the relationships in your life. It will cause the relationship with your spouse or significant other to deteriorate. You may not be able to have long-term relationships, but more importantly, it just robs you of your joy and your peace. There's just no peace living like that.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. It really was.
What would you say, Emily?
Woo. I don't think I could describe it any better than April just did. The only thing I would add is talk it out, and it goes back to talking through it with a counselor, because we get so focused and we get so, we get this, that tunnel vision, so to speak. And we're at that point in time, we're only seeing things a certain way. We're not taking that step back where someone else can help us, just really think, well, have you ever thought about this? And, and sometimes when those moments go off and you're like, you know what, I never have thought about it that way, or I never thought about how me doing this was not only going to impact others and how that was going to make others feel, but more importantly, how it was going to come back and make me feel. And internalizing that, and that's the hardest part, right? It's acknowledging, not so much that, it's hard for us to acknowledge that we need help on some things. And once we get past that, it's okay, now you have to talk, because and I can't speak for all women out there by any means, but it's that internalization where, no, I'm going to bottle it up. I'm going to bottle, because I got this. I've gotten through it before, and I'm going to get through it this time. But it gets harder. And as you go on and you gain those experiences, you're just building onto that. Yeah. And when you finally do go get it, it's like all these things, and it's like, blah, it's all coming out. And so let your voice be heard, and not in the, sense of being out there and like, from like an activist voice or anything like that, but just letting that inner voice that hasn't spoken up, be heard by someone. It's, you know what? I'm really, we talk about, it's the things we don't communicate to. It's, man, I'm really frustrated because for the last 3 nights I've been doing these dishes, and I know you see me doing these dishes, but I haven't bothered to say, can you just stop and help me do these dishes? It's just all in my head. I'm like, I know he sees me doing it. Why isn't he helping me?
And mind, honestly.
Hello.
Right? And then the first thing he says, inevitably, my poor husband, when we have those moments, he's like, well, why don't you just ask?
Exactly.
Yeah, right?
Emily,
Yes.
And
we're
it's
living
like,
the same life. I do
Same
the same
here.
thing.
Same
yeah.
here. Same
And it's
here.
like, and I've had to get better at that. And
Mhm.
so just that speaking up and speaking out and just talking it out and those things, because regardless of who's on the receiving end, someone's going to help us just kind of pause and see ourselves from a much different vantage point.
Mhm.
Yeah, but I think April, you captured it beautifully. You really did.
Thank you. Thank
No,
you.
I appreciate it. You ladies did a phenomenal job. So,
Thank you.
as our conversation comes to a close, we're reminded of the depth and diversity of experience that shape womanhood. From the anecdotes shared by our panelists to the insightful reflection on balancing life's many roles, today's discussion has been both enlightening and inspiring. We've uncovered stories of resilience, determination, and unwavering strength. We've celebrated the victories, both big and small, and acknowledged the challenges that continue to shape the journey towards equity, equality, and empowerment. But our conversation doesn't end here. It's merely a continuation of a broader dialogue, one that extends beyond this podcast episode. So, as we bid farewell, let us carry forward the lessons learned today. And oh my goodness, these ladies have definitely taught us some lessons. So, let us uplift, support, and advocate for one another as we navigate the complexity of life's multifaceted roles. And let us never forget the power of unity, empathy, and sisterhood in driving positive change. Thank you so much to our esteemed panelists, Emily and April, for sharing your wisdom and your insights. Remember, womanhood is not a destination, but a journey best traveled together. This is Jessica Marset signing off. Take care, stay empowered, and keep shining bright.
Thank you so much, ladies.
Thank
This was
you.
amazing.
Yes, this is great. Great conversation.